Moving on to item 1, adoption of the draft agenda. As you know, the aviation package has been deferred, but Mr. Telichka will tell us about that in a second. But I think we can approve the agenda otherwise. No issues? Good. Mr. Telichka, you have the floor on the aviation package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a few points of clarification because there have been some emails running around in the last 72 hours, and I would like to straighten up some of the information. You will recall that the intention of mine, which was supported by the shadows, was to have a concise, structured report that would deal with what we see as the emphasis, as well as eventually with some of the gaps. That philosophy has been outlined at the very beginning, and I was glad that we have found an agreement on that with the shadows, whose work I would like to appreciate because we really had quite a speedy work, which resulted in a paper where basically every single issue is dealt within one para. That was the intention, so we don't have an inflation of any issues, regardless of where they come from. Now, that has been basically achieved, and I have also done one thing which I need to stress is in line with the rules of procedure, not because I would just refer what the Secretariat has said, but clearly I have done the homework and went through all the rules of procedure. And basically what we have done, an employee opinion, and I hope that you will find time to look into it, which is 5 pages and 35 points, which is exactly the same number of points of my report. And okay, I can understand that maybe the rapporteur didn't have the ability, let's say, to agree with his shadows on a concise opinion. But I would like to stress I would never, vis-à-vis any committee, would have drafted an opinion which would be as long as the report itself, which completely dilutes the content of the report. Now, what I need also to say is that the employee committee's opinion includes both issues of exclusive competence of employee, shared competence, and exclusive competence of TRAN. This is a reality. So having said that, what we have tried to do is basically to make a concise paper which would not dominate in the report, but we have left all the relevant issues, even though I would disagree with a number of those in the paper, but it would be shortened. Basically, all the issues were there in order to have the report pass by the committee. I even managed to generate, I would dare to say, a strong majority in favor of that happening today. Now, of course, the ideal world would be if some of colleagues here in TRAN would, let's say, refrain from amending, let's say, what is in the competence of employee and vice versa, but that did not happen, and therefore that was basically the only option to do. Now, do I have the right to propose to the committee to have a vote on the paper? Yes, I do, because it's clearly said in the rules of procedure that that will be that this is the sole competence of the rapporteur, and then it is validated by the vote, which means that the employee committee has the possibility to take its opinion and basically retable it in the plenary. That could have happened, and I think that we wouldn't have been losing time. So to cut the long story short, without going into details, also thanks to good interaction with the Secretariat, every single provision of the rules of procedure has been followed. We have tried to maintain a solid quality report so that we would vote it next week and would have it in time, well in time, before the Commission early next year will come with a number of proposals that the strategy deals with. Now, this, as I understand, will not happen. We now, what I'm concerned about, we will have a vote in the plenary in February. We are losing time, of course. Basically, what now can be done? One, we will just take out everything that is employee exclusive competence, and that will go directly to the plenary. But I do insist, in line with the rules of procedure, that shared competence and exclusive competence of TRAN will be voted here in the committee. It is a pity maybe that we have not taken more effort to look into the issue, and we have postponed the vote. But in this context, with all the understanding that in the plenary, especially before Christmas, you might have difficulties, I would ask your consideration, Mr. Chair, to have a very short committee meeting next week for the purpose of this single vote, that we would maintain the calendar of voting in the plenary. But of course, it is up to your discretion. But I wanted to underline what was the intention, what we have achieved, also the fact that it got strong support from the vast majority of the political groups, and that the rules of procedures were fully respected. In the future, I would like us to avoid a situation and seek discipline not only of ours, of other committees, that if there is a report which is basically composed of 35 compromise amendments, we do not get an opinion which is equally long. This is, I'm sorry to say, absurd. And I say that on the basis that I fully respected what was the content of the Employee Committee. Thank you for your time.
Ja, vielen